Physiology of sleep. What is sleep? It is the loss of consciousness or the loss of wakeful state. It's not only simple loss of wakefulness or loss of consciousness, that is temporary. That means I want to add temporary loss of consciousness, which can be reversed by external stimuli, whatever may be the stimuli, maybe sound, pressure, cold water, or whatever. Then if we take it further, it is the question comes, there are the previous or historically sleep was considered as a passive phenomena because we get tired and we are going to go to the sleep mode. But it's not true. Sleep is an active, regulated, metabolically distinct state of loss of consciousness, which is essential for health and for our well-being, and which can be reversed by external stimuli. That makes the complete definition of sleep. I will repeat again. Sleep is an active, regulated, metabolically distinct state of a temporary loss of consciousness, which can be reversed by external stimuli and is essential for health and well-being of the human being. It is different from anesthesia, because anesthesia, especially general anesthesia, where some chloroform or ether or some other agent is administered, which will depress some of the centers in the brainstem, and that would produce the unconscious state. And also different from coma. Coma means it's a prolonged loss of consciousness because of some brain injury or ischemia, stroke, so on. These two conditions are different from the sleep because they are not responsive and there is no synchronization of the electroencephalogram or EEG pattern. In general anesthesia, unconsciousness is dependent upon the time at which these anesthetic agents remain in our body. Suppose if they decline, the consciousness arrives. So that is what happens in case of a major surgery or in operations, during operations. Coma, it's a prolonged state of unconsciousness, and he will not be able to be aroused even with a painful stimuli, and usually associated with a brain disorder, ischemia, anoxia, or some other type of a abnormality. Why do we sleep? If I want to answer this question, I would ask another question: why we are awake? We are awake because there is a continuous excitatory effects of the reticular activating system, and entire cerebral cortex is activated and we are in aroused state. And this requires the reticular formation, involves the thalamic nuclei, that means the interlaminar and reticular nuclei of the thalamus, which govern spans around all the entire the cortex. Stimulation of the reticular activating system is reinforced. That means this activation is reinforced by the input from the spinal cord, by the input from the brain. So we have the reinforced by the positive feedback from the cortex, corticopontine or corticoreticular inputs, and spinoreticular inputs. Now, if I come back with that state, because we are awake because of the reticular formation, can we reverse that? Because it is the diminished reticular activating system activity that puts us to sleep. Yes, that may be true. Reticular activating systems get tired during the day. Diminished RAS activity allows the sleep centers to inhibit this excitatory inputs and produces the drowsiness. There are centers in the hypothalamus and around, they will suppress the reticular activating system. In addition, the circadian rhythm also governs the day-night cycles and also the suprachiasmatic nucleus and the pineal connection. So they will also regulate our pattern of sleep, because when it becomes night and the number of the sensory inputs also diminish, and you will have some what is called a sleep, because you will enter into that. Other things are homeostatic. Homeostatic means generalized homeostasis in our body, which maintain the entire milieu of the body status. That means accumulation of metabolites, conditioning, so on and so forth. So all these things put together, we go to sleep. So that means, one, I wanted to say the circadian rhythm. Number two, I want to say the reticular activating system. Number three, I want to say the homeostatic some slowdown. So sleep is regulated by the following: homeostatic system, circadian system, and arousal network. Homeostatic system is our activity. Suppose you have an examination coming up and you are aroused. That means activity that drives, that is the homeostasis. Or a person is lazy, lying on the bed, so that also puts you to sleep. Or other things that like conditioning, we get conditioned, because when it comes to night, we take a nice dinner or supper, and then we go to sleep. So because we know that we have been conditioned since our childhood to this age. And further, our mental state, mental homeostasis is also part of the mental state. In the mental state, whether we are alert or we want to go sleep or we want to go slow, something like that, mental state also determines these things. Then third thing is metabolism. Suppose if there is a greater metabolism, the greater metabolism leads to number of metabolic end products, maybe their accumulation or their slight, that means slight depletion of the energy, the ATP. So that may lead to some amount of a sliding. Then further internal milieu like the maintenance of the hydrogen ion, the sodium, calcium, potassium, water, other electrolytes, temperature. The homeostatic sliding or decrement that may put us to sleep. That's one part. These will regulate. Say, for example, a person with a hyperthyroidism may not get to sleep because the thyroid is a stimulating hormone. Or person with a hypothyroidism, he is always dull and sleepy and lazy. So that is just an example I gave. So that means those who are metabolically active, they may be alert. So then the second part is a circadian mechanism. We know that we have a day-night cycles. These day-night cycles are determined by the light, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, the pineal gland, and their connections. So they determine number of other networking, and this also, sleep also becomes one of the component of that circadian mechanism. Then arousal network. Arousal network is situated in the reticular formation, and this reticular formation receives inputs from the external stimuli, that means all sensory modalities, or the internal disturbances, that is the mental or local neuronal disturbances. So balance of these homeostatic, circadian, and arousal network, they will determine the sleep status or arousal status of the individual. Now, what are the brain areas that regulate sleep? That is the question. Now, I have here listed 3 dominant areas in the brain. Previously, it was thought the hypothalamus is the main center. No, it is not hypothalamus. We have a brain areas which is forming reticular formation, which is a reticular formation in the midbrain, pons, and medulla. So this forms a reticular activating system. And here we have a raphe and locus coeruleus and a nucleus tractus solitarius. And this area is necessary for a transition from wakefulness to sleep. That is a switch. This is the area in which that is a sleep switch is there. And this is also a switch for changing the sleep pattern from one type of sleep to the another type of sleep. Sleep is decided into the NREM and REM sleep, and it is also switch for that. So now we have the diencephalonic centers, that is the thalamus, hypothalamus. In those areas, thalamus is following the reticular formation. Hypothalamus, it has its own preoptic hypothalamic nuclei. This is connected with that suprachiasmatic nucleus also. That would determine the arousal system. That means hypothalamus, and this is also associated with other feeding behaviors. Then, in addition, third component is the limbic system, that is a medial forebrain bundle and Broca's diagonal band. These are part of the limbic system. Both connect the hippocampus, amygdala, and septal nucleus. Hippocampus is concerned with the memory. Amygdala is concerned with the emotion. A septal nucleus will be suppressing these emotions. So that means these limbic areas, they determine the theta wave, that is a slow sleep and dreaming. So these are governed by these areas. Now, if I go further, that means I have made a reticular formation, diencephalon, thalamus, diencephalon centers, that is thalamus, hypothalamus, and a limbic system, medial forebrain bundle, and Broca's diagonal band. Now, areas in the brain that produce sleep, here I have mentioned. Here is the raphe nucleus, that is inhibitory. So this is the reticular formation, that is excitatory, that produces general arousal. Then posterior hypothalamus, this is producing, that suppresses this reticular activating system, that is minus is on, that is one part. And your noise is a sensory disturbance, and any other inputs coming from the spinal cord, like exercise and other things. Here I have mentioned raphe nucleus, the medullary synchronization. So NTS is a synchronization center that stimulates both raphe and the locus coeruleus. Diencephalonic areas, I have already mentioned about hypothalamus and thalamus. Basal forebrain areas I mentioned. Okay, I come back to this thing, low frequency cutaneous sensory stimulation may put somebody to sleep. So like if somebody wants to make the child to sleep, they will take there on their lap and then slowly they pat the baby at a particular rhythm, and then it will go to sleep. On the other hand, if you increase the frequency, that will be stimulating and excitatory, painful. So that will wake up the baby. Now, so these are some brain areas. I'm just repeating. This pons help. This is a pons is the raphe nucleus there, helps to initiate a REM sleep, and you have the reticular formation there that regulates the transition between sleep and wakefulness. That is a switch. And we have the thalamus here. From here, all the projection go to the cortex. So that means it allows whether the signal should reach the cortex or do not reach the cortex. So then we have hypothalamus that controls the onset of sleep. That is again another switch there. We have two switch there, one in the medulla and one in the hypothalamus. Hippocampus and amygdala, they are, one is concerned with the memory and emotions. They are in the dreamy states. Sometimes we dream some certain events which are linked with the memory, or we dream certain information which are associated with the emotion, like anger or whatever. So now we go back here. So now I am just putting down certain things. This is the reticular formation. Raphe nucleus is the primary. That is serotonin there, and this is a locus coeruleus, norepinephrine, and ventral tegmental area. This is the ventral tegmental area. This is dopamine. I am trying to bring in the neurotransmitter associated. Now, the orexin is the peptide for the feeding behavior. The orexin also regulates sleep. So now this regulates sleeps in terms of the activation of the raphe, then modulating the raphe, locus coeruleus, and the ventral tegmental area, and then even to the nucleus accumbens. The nucleus accumbens is a reward center. So now these green areas are all wakefulness. The red areas, they try to suppress the wakeful state. Now, just taking it further, orexin and hypocretin is a peptide secreted by the hypothalamus, and this would suppress the rough nucleus and the lateral dorsal tegmentum, and also this is the locus ceruleus that will suppress that. And here we have the tegmentum. This is the histaminergic, and then we have the acetylcholinergic, the basal forebrain area. So our adenosine or acetylcholinergic, these things, they will be activated, they will be suppressed, so that will start the what we call as a sleep. Same thing, these are the ascending arousal system. These are the arousal systems. These are all going. That means we have so many systems located. Maybe I mentioned locus ceruleus, peduncular tegmentum here, cholinergic, lateral dorsal tegmentum, periaqueductal gray dopaminergic. This is a rough nucleus serotonergic, and tegmental nucleus histaminergic, and hypothalamus orexinergic. Then this is a prefrontal cortex. They will also be this thing, and they will all make the arousal system. This is the arousal system. So now we have, in the same way, which depresses this all these centers, the periaqueductal gray, lateral dorsal tegmentum, pontopedicular tegmentum, locus ceruleus, rough nucleus tegmentum. All these things are suppressed by these centers. So this is only primarily from the hypothalamic orexinergic neurons. What are the factors which influence sleep? Adenosine, this inhibits the specific cholinergic neurons of the reticular activating system, which stimulates the cortex. So that means it keeps you awake. So activating, which stimulates the cortex. Then prostaglandin D2 increases the tendency to sleep. Prostaglandin D2 levels, if they are increased, that will increase the sleep through the medial preoptic area of the hypothalamus. Prostaglandin E2, they promotes the wakeful state. So that means here is it's both are happening in the hypothalamus. So one is sleep inducing, one is the wakefulness. Interleukins, and these are inflammatory cytokines. These interleukin and tumor necrosis factor alpha, they promote NREM sleep. So when they are increased, so NREM sleeps. That is why you must have seen, whenever we have certain infections or anything, we feel sleepy, because we have our inflammatory responses are activated, and once these inflammatory responses are activated, we have the cytokine levels elevated, and that would promote sleep. Maybe everyone have experienced about sleep during any of the infections. So serotonin, which promotes or initiates the sleep. Then histamine, many of us have taken antihistamines. What happens when we take the antihistamines? Because some, even during common cold or something like that, we take antihistamines, we feel drowsy. So histamine, that means histamine activates the reticular activating system, that keeps us aroused. Now, if I take antihistamine, this arousal is lost. Then we have a GABA, is another transmitter that induces sleep by suppressing the reticular activating system. So most of the sleeping pills, these are GABA agonists. Say, for example, benzodiazepine and barbiturates share the GABA ionophore. GABA ionophore is in three things there. One of them for the muscimol binding site, the benzodiazepine binding site, and the barbiturate binding site. And these three things, so when they are acted, that would open the chloride ion channel, and that would induce the sleep by suppressing the reticular activating system. Then there are what are called a sleep inducing factor, or a delta sleep inducing factor. We don't know yet. Maybe when during the course of the day, we may have these accumulated in our blood, and that may induce the sleep. So there is another peptide which has been marked, and that is being elevated in a tired person. That means that is a neuramyl peptide that it produces the sleep. There are other hypnogenic effects of food and its constituents. So now I'm trying to bring in, whenever we take a food, we go low and our arousal system decreases. So this has two components. One component, the food intake stimulates this orexin from the hypothalamus. That is the feeding behavior. The second, food is having a number of amino acids, especially those amino acids which are rich in producing the serotonin. Serotonin is coming from tryptophan. Tryptophan is the amino acid, and 5-hydroxytryptamine is a serotonin. And it is a tryptophan containing amino acids, or amino acids are having tryptophan residues. They will just are proteins, they will produce this sleep. Just for example, we eat curds or curd rice after in the mealtime, or a milk. So that would increase the casein has a large number of tryptophan residues, and that would induce the sleep. So that is means hypnogenic or sedative effects. I will say sedative effect of food. That means the dietary constituents which are rich in tryptophan, or or food itself because of the orexin, that would induce the sleep, or rhythmic stimulation of any sensory modality that may put you to sleep. A nice song or a soothing song, what we call as a lori in Hindi, or the songs that will make the child to sleep. Maybe every mother sings it in their home, and those type of songs, that is the slow stimulation that would produce the sleep. These are various factors that induce sleep. Okay, next we are going to how this. I'm just in this diagram. I'm just trying to describe or explain how this flip-flop sleep and waking is this thing. So now what happens here? This is this brain stem area, the brain stem and forebrain area. This is activated, and this is activated because the sleep promoting region is inhibited or is suppressed. When this is suppressed, or the sleep promoting area is suppressed, this is the ventrolateral preoptic area, ventrolateral preoptic area, that is in the hypothalamus, that is inhibited because of the activation of the brainstem raphe nucleus, and this is inhibited. And once this is inhibited and this gets activated, and that sends impulses to the reticular activating system through the thalamus and the arousal system. But in case other way around, this is not activated, or this becomes this takes the upper hand. This takes the upper hand. That means a sleep promoting area is activated. If this is activating, this would suppress the brainstem centers, the reticular formation. And once the brainstem reticular formation is suppressed, person will go into sleep. So that means here I have mentioned the transmitters involved, ACH, norepinephrine, 5-HT, and histamine. Same thing is here. So that means we have this flip-flop pattern. Each of these sleep promoting and sleep activating centers are in a reciprocal inhibition. Now, what are the different phases of sleep? So when we sleep, these are the EEG recordings of an individual, and on the side, on the right hand side, and here we have two parameters. When we go to sleep from the awake state, this is the pattern. Awake, when I go to the bed, we have a very high frequency EEG activity. Slowly these waves, you can just see these fast rapid waves are becoming slower here, and these rapid waves have become not only slower, there is a spindle like activity. So this is so slowly this is becoming slow and slow. You can just see there are some spindles coming up, and this pattern is becoming slowing down, and finally in the third and fourth stage there is a much slowing of the wave pattern, and suddenly there is a reversal of this. So that means we have, when people have recorded with the electroacoulogram, they record the eye movement. In these 3 or 4 stages, there is no eye movement, and suddenly there is eye movement. According to that, this is called a non-rapid eye movement sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. The other name for this is this non-rapid eye movement sleep, because the waves are getting slowed down. This is called a slow wave sleep, slow wave sleep. And here it is a waves which are not slow, which have become like normal. This is a desynchronized sleep. So that means these are also called a paradoxical sleep. Paradoxical sleep, we have a desynchronized sleep and a REM, rapid eye movement sleep. Third, usually in a day we will have these patterns 1, 2, 3, 4 and REM sleep, and then the cycles around 4 to 6 cycles we have in a 8 to 10 hour sleep. So this is these are the different phases. That means we have 2 phases of sleep, NREM sleep and a REM sleep. Then what is slow wave sleep? It has 4 stages, and the duration of the slow wave sleep is around 80 to 110 minutes. And usually we have 5 to 10 minutes, 5 to 20 minutes for each stage. Slow wave sleep, the duration decreases with the age. We will see that. So then there is the appearance of the theta and delta waves. This is slow waves in non-REM sleep, NREM sleep, that is the 3 and 4 stage. Dreams occur in this sleep also, but they are not remembered. There is a decreased activity of the vascular tone, that means a decreased sympathetic activity and a decreased visceral functions. There is a decrement in the blood pressure, respiration and metabolism. All these things happen in slow wave sleep or NREM sleep. Skeletal muscle tone decreases and the spinal reflex responses are attenuated duration. The awake state, the beta rhythm, then comes the slowly drowsy state, the alpha waves appear, then alpha waves come in bundles. These are called sleep spindles, and then slowly in the stage 1 you have those slow waves. These are theta waves coming up. These are slow waves coming up, and then you have these slow waves, and again the spindles. These are spindles. These appear. These are called sleep spindles. So this is also a sleep spindle here, and these are also sleep spindles. Then comes we have here, these are in the stage 2. These are sleep spindle there. Then kappa or K complexes. So these are seen in the stage 2. In the stage 3 and the stage 4, that is a deep sleep. The stage 4 is the deepest of the sleep. You have the delta waves, very large waves and slow frequency, they are there. Then suddenly that is switch to the fast sleep, and they have what are called the almost the beta rhythm. And then we have this seesaw appearance. So you just saw that seesaw appearance. So now I have just mentioned here, this is because of the activate neuronal connections, these oscillations, because of the oscillations coming from the thalamus, reticular system, reticular, thalamus, and the cortex. These are called POG spikes. They will be coming up, and I have just narrated here. Now, same thing I have mentioned, how this same modulation of the cortical activity is taking place. Thalamus forms the central role, and this from the brainstem it is coming up, and the spike activity. Same thing if you are looking at this is the same, and this is the block diagram I am given. So now, so who is active when? So who means which of those parameters are active? So that means the cholinergic part present in the brainstem acetylcholine, especially, that is active during awake state. That is coming from the brainstem reticular system. And this NREM sleep, that is the slow wave sleep, it is inactive. Sensory component of thalamus, that means which is coming, the VPL, all the sensory modalities are coming. They are facilitated during the awake state. They are suppressed or inhibited in the NREM. Reticular system, reticular nucleus is activated during the awake state and is inhibited in the NREM sleep. Thalamocortical neurons are active and they are in a slow rhythm. EEG, high frequency, beta, desynchronous, and it is a slow frequency, A, alpha, delta, and theta waves, or alpha, theta, and delta waves. A for alpha waves, they are synchronous. So these are again what is happening. You can just see, I have just given this thing. So this is the brainstem reticular system, reticle formation. That forms the REM and the SWS switch, slow wave sleep, and reticular the rapid eye movement sleep. There is a switch here. This is present here in the raphe nucleus, and we have the SCN, that the pineal gland and the suprachiasmatic nucleus of hypothalamus. They are connected with this, and that would be for circadian clock. That means day night cycles. Then hypothalamus, that has a sleep and wake switch. That means a switch between the wakeful state and a sleepy state. That's in the hypothalamus, and we have a thalamus here that regulates everything, and this regulates the cortical activation of the sleep spindle and the EEG synchronization. Now let us consider what is stage 1 sleep. I have just mentioned all that. Transition period between the wakeful state of the sleep, and it takes approximately 1 to 15 minutes, eyes closed and relaxed. Light sleep, hallucination, like that means as if you are hearing something away, and it is having now from beta activity, the fast activity, to the slow activity, and this slow activity becomes much slower. Maybe theta activity is coming up. NREM stage 2, you will lose the consciousness, and it is real sleep, and it takes about 20 minutes. And you get the sleep spindles. These are sleep spindles there, and you have a K complexes, and there is no eye movement. Slow eye movements, they have mentioned, almost practically it is undetectable. And in this period, usually he has gone to sleep. It is difficult to wake, but you can wake him up. It's difficult to wake, and you don't get the dreams. Even if you get very small fragments of the dreams, you don't get any dreams here, or you don't, even if you get a dreams also, you don't remember. So that is not this is not the stage of the sleep wherein you start a dream. Then stage 3 of the sleep, it is halfway deep sleep. Body temperature and blood pressure falls. The harder to awaken, it's difficult to awake or arouse, and it is associated with the theta waves, and the sleep spindles diminish. You can just see that this theta wave, stage 3, this theta waves, the sleep spindles decrease, and no eye movements. So that is what the stage 3. Now, if we go with the stage 4, it is the deep sleep. Takes, usually it is a longer stage there, 30 to 40 minutes. Delta waves are prominent. These are delta waves. They are prominent there, and the reflexes are present, but they are slowed down, and muscle tone decreases. And during this time, the certain individuals who have that tendency for a sleepwalking or a sleep talking or a snoring, bedwetting, all these things happen in this stage of the sleep. I have already explained this phenomena, how these stages appear. So you come down from the awake, then stay there. It's a stepwise manner. Stay there for some time, about 5 to 10 minutes. Then again stay there down, and you stay here in the 4th stage. And then again it is reversed back. You just reverse back. You come to stage 1, enter into REM. So like that, these steps continue. You see that the steps are decreasing. You can just see that the steps are decreasing, and this REM activity is increasing. You can just see that this is little here, small duration, greater duration, like that. And at the end, when in the morning we wake up with some dreams, and suddenly we open and we have seen that something wanting or something unusual is happening, or whatever you dream about, you get that thing there. Now about REM sleep, lasts for about 5 to 30 minutes, because the range is there at every 90-minute interval. That means if you are going back, so this is from here to here, somewhere around 90 minutes interval. So now, so there are rapid eye movements. This is called beta wave sleep, or the waves are fast, rapid, and this is called a paradoxical sleep or a desynchronized sleep. And dreaming happens here, and these dreams are remembered. In slow wave sleep also we dream, but they are not remembered. We don't remember them. They do happen there, and there are active body movements are present in this sleep. And in this sleep, it's very difficult to wake up, and even with the sensory stimulations. And usually morning, you just to wake up or get up as if you are coming from a transition from a sleepy state to the awake state. And during this sleep, there is a decrease in the muscle tone, excepting respiratory and eye muscles. Irregularity in heart rate and respiratory rate is seen, and there is a decrease in the, there is an increase in the brain metabolism during the REM sleep. So now, what makes the REM sleep? Just I have mentioned ACH neurons in the reticular formation. These are ACH neurons. These are REM on cells. These REM on cells, they get activated, and they will stimulate. Usually they find norepinephrine and 5-HT or REM of cells which are present in the raphe nucleus. They will inhibit, and they will once they decrease their inhibition, they will REM is on. Lateral tegmentum and the lateral geniculate body occipital complex. So these are known as a pontogeniculo-occipital spikes. They are happening in the thalamus. They are recorded. So this is a REM off. How this REM off and REM on, they are happening, and this is the part where REM sleep is taking place. So this switch between these REM off cells and REM on cells. REM off cells are present in the 5-HT, the lateral dorsal tegmentum. We have the REM on cells. There is a balance between, or switch between, and that would regulate the REM sleep. Now, just the differences between a REM sleep and an NREM sleep. Slow EEG similar to the person who is awake. That means beta rhythm. It is a slow wave EEG. You can just see this theta or delta rhythm there, and this is the rhythm. Muscular activity present, no movement. Little present means the person sleeping cannot move. And the dreaming rare, dreaming common, easily awakened as compared to this, and difficult to awaken, and spends 80% of the time in non-REM sleep. Only 20% of the time. You can just see this. This is the time. Blue is the time there. So they will send the NREM sleep. So now this is the total typical REM and NREM sleep. Now we have the brain activity. This is a REM. These are fMRIs taken from a brain activity. When they have taken, you see the large amount of red areas. That indicates the number of areas in the brain are activated during a REM sleep. This is NREM sleep. Now, if you are comparing with the stage 4 and the REM sleep, so as the sleep hours increases, the REM duration increases. Red is a REM duration. You have seen the REM duration increases, while stage 4 of the non-REM is decreasing. This is This is a non-REM. Green is a non-REM. This is decreasing phase stage 4. So that means one is increasing and one is decreasing. That means this if you are going backwards there, so you can just see that this period, you can just, this is a non-REM period, this is getting decreased, finally almost nil. So like that it is happening. So now if you are coming back, what happens, age effect. So this is the age effect. This is the newborn baby sleeps nearly 16 hours. As they advances, this is a 90-year man. He sleeps only, what I can say, 8 hours is too long. He may be sleeping for 4 to 6 hours there. So now in that we have this component is REM, and this component NREM. You can see that the NREM is fairly constant, whereas REM sleep is decreasing with age. You can just see that this is something like a cone coming up. The REM sleep is decreasing, and in an elderly population, maybe 60 to 90, REM sleep is very little. You can just see that the REM and the non-REM pattern, they are shown here in this graph. You can just see that with the age in years, and this I have taken it from 𝐻𝐿. Now, same thing, what is happening with a different age group? If you are looking at this child, this is children, so this is a prolonged time they are spending here, they will have, and slowly, and the elderly person, they have a very little REM sleep. So you have more REM sleep in the young adults. Now, waking during or after sleep, it is hard to wake up in a non-REM phase 4 and even in a REM. Waking during REM sleep leaves unpleasant feeling and lingering on for long. Spontaneous arousal after the REM sleep. Thalamocortical neuron activity, so that means slowly thalamic hyperpolarization decreases and that wakes you up. So that's what is happening. Here I have mentioned hyperpolarization phasic firing during sleep, and depolarization whenever tonic firing due to sensory input. These two things balance the thalamocortical neuron activity, but slowly thalamic hyperpolarization, which puts us asleep, is decreasing, so that we will wake up. So that means we become depolarized. Now we come back. What are the physiological effects of sleep? Why sleep is required? Yes, sleep is required. Sleep is required for CNS homeostasis, maintain the balance between the activities and the different parts of the activities of the different parts of the brain, consolidation of memory, attenuation of the sympathetic activity and the muscle tone, conservation of energy, because 8 hours you are sleeping, that means you conserve the energy. That would decrease the BMR and body temperature, and it improves the immunological response. It also regulates number of hormones. You can just see the growth hormone, cortisol secretions, and phosphate excretion, melatonin secretion, and maintaining ultradian rhythms, and even improving the skin and tissue and the immunological response. So that means the benefits of sleep are many more that we require to have a sleep. So then what happens if we deprive the individual of the sleep? Prolonged wakefulness may result in irritability, confusion, and psychotic symptoms. Fatigue, frustration, depression, inability to concentrate and focus. So if you continuously you are awake, so that means you get frustrated and you just fatigued. That is you will be hyper responsive to pain and other stressful situation, and you will manifest with anorexia and other GIT movement disorders. So there will be repair, or the cell repair process is also impaired. So these are all sleep deprivation models. Now, REM sleep. Suppose if God asks me, what do you want? You want REM sleep or NREM sleep? Then I will pray for him the REM sleep, because REM sleep is essential for our survival. So the REM sleep deprivation produces a confusion, paranoia, that is a psychiatric disorder, the affective disorders, decreased our performance, decreased muscle consolidation, loss of balance, decreased immune efficiency, and it results in work, traffic, or home accidents. So that means it is essential, and if we want REM sleep, that is required. Then these are some of the sleep disorders I mentioned: insomnia, sleeplessness; parasomnia include sleepwalking, what is called somnambulism, sleep talking, bedwetting, nocturnal analysis, and night terrors. So these are parasomnias. Behavioral disorders like excessive motor activity in REM. There is another condition called a narcolepsy. This is a irresistible desire to sleep. Restless leg syndrome and periodic limb movement disorder. This is again another sleep disorder. Sleep paralysis. Some of the persons will go into sleep paralysis. We will see them very quickly. Insomnia is a condition. People are not able to sleep during night. So it's a very difficult situation. Many of the population, they are having insomnia, especially the elderly population. And the problem is to initiate the sleep. Once they initiate, they may go to sleep, or some of them may not be able to go to sleep at all in the night. This is because of this, there is associated stress, physical and mental abnormalities. Sometimes there are conditions known as fatal familial insomnias. So now these insomnias are unable to sleep. There is instability, hallucination, stupor, coma, and death. So you just see that. So if you can. So what are the treatment? I'm just mentioning. There are non-pharmacological and pharmacological. Non-pharmacological is yoga and meditation, diet and exercise, especially the diet, milk, and the diet rich with tryptophan. You can just give them, and de-stressing, that means decrease the stress levels and bring him in the positive attitudes. So this is non-pharmacological. The pharmacological, usually we use the sleeping pills or benzodiazepines. These are anti-anxiety drugs, and sedatives, the barbiturates, and sometimes the antihistamines, they work. Narcolepsy, again, why I am telling these are conditions, short note questions. That is why I have made all those things. So the narcolepsy, irresistible desire to sleep, associated with the hypotonia, what is called cataplexy. There is a brief episodes of this thing. There is almost sometimes there is a total paralysis beginning or at the end of the sleep. It's a chronic neurological disorder caused by inability to regulate the sleep-wake cycles. Hypothalamus is involved. I have just mentioned hypo here. It is hypothalamus. It is characterized by sudden onset of REM sleep. So this is narcolepsy, unlike normal sleep, which begins with a non-REM sleep. The prevalence is 1 in 600 in Japan, 1 in 55 lakh in Israel, and 1 in 1,000 in American population. Is a familial incidence, and they have the genes expressed here. These HLA-DR2 and HLA-DQW1 genes are isolated. Brains of humans with narcolepsy contain fewer hypocretin producing neurons in the hypothalamus. That means there is a autoimmune disorders. They have destroyed those hypocretin producing cells, the orexin producing cells. That is what about narcolepsy? This is a hypothalamic disorder, and you get this short note question. Then obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is another interesting thing which comes to a person in a chest or department of chest or ENT. This is the most common cause of that. Because of the apnea, he does not sleep. He will have a daytime sleepiness, sleepiness, and restlessness due to fragmented sleep in the night. 24% of the middle-aged men and 9% of the women in USA are affected. It is more than, usually apnea is more than 10 seconds. Frequent episodes of obstruction of the upper airway, especially the pharynx and even down, due to the reduction in the muscle tone of the pharyngeal, these things. The apnea causes the brief arousals, and he wakes up because of the respiratory centers are involved, and again he goes to sleep. Snoring is common here, and there is actually not a reduction in total sleep time, But individuals with obstructive sleep apnea, because they have this thing, they will sleep again, they will come back to stage 1 from this thing. The pathophysiology of OSK includes both the reduction of neuromuscular tone and the sleep. So just I had given that, you just go through that. This periodic limb movement disorder, you can just read about that. I will just leave this thing to you to read about. Okay, parasomnias, sleepwalking, somnambulism, the nocturnal neurosis, night terrors, you read these things here. These disorders are associated with arousal, NREM and REM sleep. They may last for several minutes, and this parasomnia. So you just try to have these things. The keywords for your examination, I'm just giving you: REM sleep, EEG waves during sleep, PGO spikes, NREM sleep, physiological effect of sleep, narcolepsy, and sleep apnea syndrome and insomnia.